This week on Africa Update.
This is a magnificent victory for the American people that will allow us to make America great again.
Take a look on the U.S. elections and its impact on the African continent. Hello and welcome to Africa Update on Trust Television, reaching you from Abuja, Nigeria's capital. I am your host, Chiamaka. Nwanfor. We'll be right back. In a historic comeback since the 1800s, Donald Trump has won the U.S. elections and has become the 47th president. That is, he was the 45th president just a few years ago. Now, speeches have been given from the president-elect Trump to Vice President Harris and President Biden. Let's take a look at those.
This is a magnificent victory for the American people that will allow us to make America great again. And in addition to having won the battleground states of North Carolina, I love these places, Georgia, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin, we are now winning in Michigan, Arizona, Nevada, and Alaska, which would result in us carrying at least 315 electoral votes, but it's much easier doing what the networks did or whoever called it, because there was no other path. There was no other path to victory. We also have won the popular vote. That was great. Very proud of that. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. And, winning the popular vote was very nice, I will tell you. It's a great feeling of love. We have a great feeling of love in this very large room with unbelievable people standing by my side. These people have been incredible. They've made the journey with me, and we're going to make you very happy. We're going to make you very proud of your vote. I hope that you're going to be looking back someday and say that was one of the truly important moments of my life when I voted for this group of people beyond the president, this group of great people.
For over 200 years, America has carried on the greatest experiment in self-government in the history of the world. And that's not hyperbole, that's a fact. We're the people. The people vote and choose their own leaders, and they do it peacefully. And we're in a democracy. The will of the people always prevails. Yesterday, I spoke with President-elect Trump to congratulate him on his victory. And I assured him that I'd direct my entire administration to work with his team to ensure a peaceful and orderly transition. That's what the American people deserve. Yesterday, I also spoke with Vice President Harris. She's been a partner and a public servant. She ran an inspiring campaign, and everyone got to see something that I learned early on to respect so much, her character. She has a backbone like a ramrod. She has great character, true character. She gave her whole heart and effort, and she and her entire team should be proud of the campaign they ran. You know, the struggle for the soul of America, since our very founding, has always been an ongoing debate and still vital today. I know for some people, it's a time for victory, to state the obvious. For others, it's a time of loss. Campaigns are contests of competing visions. The country chooses one or the other. We accept the choice the country made. I've said many times, you can't love your country only when you win. You can't love your neighbor only when you agree. Something I hope we can do, no matter who you voted for, is see each other not as adversaries, but as fellow Americans. Bring down the temperature.
Now I know folks are feeling and experiencing a range of emotions right now. I get it. But we must accept the results of this election. Earlier today, I spoke with President-elect Trump and congratulated him on his victory. I also told him that we will help him and his team with their transition, and that we will engage in a peaceful transfer of power. A fundamental principle of American democracy is that when we lose an election, we accept the results. That principle, as much as any other, distinguishes democracy from monarchy or tyranny. And anyone who seeks the public trust must honor it. At the same time, in our nation, we owe loyalty not to a president or a party, but to the Constitution of the United States.
Now, we've seen all that wonderful speeches from President-elect Trump, Vice President Harris, and President Biden, accepting defeat, accepting victory, and of course, telling the incoming president the plans that they were going to do. Now, joining me in the studio to speak further is Ambassador Bulus Lolo, and he is a former permanent secretary to the Nigerian mission in New York. So, I'm sure he has quite an experience to speak on the matter. So we're going to start off with generally your outlook on the elections.
Well, thank you, and it's good again to be back on your program, Chiamaka. And thank you for the introduction. Yes, I was once at the permanent mission of Nigeria to the United Nations. But before that, I have been following American elections since 1980.
Okay.
Going back now to the time between Ronald Reagan and Jimmy Carter, then came on down to George Bush Sr. and Bill Clinton, 1982. I also watched the transition between George H.W. Bush, which is George Sr., and Bill Clinton in 1992 to date. And in all these years, I've listened and followed very closely, in fact, all the debates that took place in 1980 till the last one between Trump and Harris, I've watched. So my following of American presidential elections goes back a few decades now. 2024 is unprecedented.
How so?
Because we have seen a shift in American politics. And often you would hear them talk of Reagan era. Now it is a Trump era. Trump, like Reagan, contested as a Republican. First in 2016, against all odds, he won the election. In fact, yes, much as he was a candidate, if you play the tape, you would see that he was shocked by his own victory in 2016 because all the odds were against him. Then 2024, like I said, is unlike any. Trump lost his election in 2020 even though he did not concede defeat, and to date he has not conceded. Trump in 2024 was convicted of 34 criminal charges in New York by a pair of what they call his peers who served as jury. And on all 34 counts, he was found guilty. Then he had other charges in court that he was fighting. With all that baggage on him, the Republican Party of the Reagan era would not have touched Donald Trump with the long end of a stick as its candidate. But in 2024, they embraced him. Not only did they embrace him, but they have given him what he has called a magnificent mandate to take America in the direction that he has defined. Making America great is a very good slogan, But it will be great as Trump sees that country and as Trump defines that country, together with his base that has remained very faithful to him.
Okay, so would it be safe to say that you're anti-Trump?
No, I don't have. Why should I be anti-Trump? Okay. I'm a Nigerian. I'm not an American.
Okay.
So I'm just an onlooker.
Well, Nigerians are very invested in the...
They are entitled to that. In fact, it amazes me and amuses me at the same time that some Nigerians are so passionate
about what's the president of the United States of America.
Yes, and maybe for good reason.
Oh, well.
You know, but for me, if you ask, I look at the world from a different perspective. And like I said, I have followed the debates in the U.S. election cycle since 1980. And I can tell you what each of them stood for. It is 2024. Mark my words. The Trump administration come January 20th, 2025 will always say they have been given, they made promises and they are keeping their promises. So it will be promises made, promises kept, policy that Trump will use.
Yes, let's now, I wasn't going to go into that conversation yet. Now, one of the promises, and I've seen videos of it during the campaign, is the issue of migration. That's a very strong issue for Trump, even from the past. Last time he was the president, migration was an issue for him, was a major thing he talked about. And we could see them saying it. 6 months, that's what I saw the video, says 6 months into the administration, every illegal migrant should get ready to go home.
I don't know how somebody will sit down with what Trump said and think that he will give a grace of 6 months.
It wasn't even Trump that said it. That's the funny thing.
No. On January 20th, I am making a bet that among the executive orders that Trump will sign, one of it will include the immediate deportation
of all illegal migrants.
Yes.
Okay, now let's hold this down now. Trump's winning. What does this entail for Africa as a continent?
Well, you're asking me a question, but permit me to ask you. If you followed the campaign up to 3 days ago, how many times was Africa mentioned in the campaign? And if there was very limited mention of Africa, that means Africa is marginal to the United States. But whether or not we are marginal is a different thing altogether. But it only tells you that on their priority list, Africa is not high there, except when it comes to one thing. U.S. strategic interest will change if Africa threatens that interest. So it is only when Africa becomes a threat to American security that you will see attention being paid. In fact, even Biden, that ordinarily would have been more pro-Africa, how much engagement was there between Biden and the continent? And Trump, too, will be one in which Africa will really be in the backwaters. I'm sorry if I say so, but I believe that will be the case. And if we're expecting that we'll get much from the Trump presidency, I'll be pleasantly surprised if we do. But otherwise, I simply will say Africa is in the backwaters and Africa will remain in the backwaters.
Okay, so from his foreign policy, there's nothing that we can look to that we're going to benefit from the Trump administration. I know that just as his slogan is MAGA, Make America Great Again, his main and sole focus is America. And to a certain extent, a lot of people would probably like that, seeing that a lot of people have a problem with America's, will I say, unwarranted influence or trying to, get you to do things in the way they feel is the best way.
In 2007, many Nigerians, of course, did not hear the slogan. But before Trump said, making America great again and America first, we adopted a slogan in Nigeria when we carried out a reform in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and our mantra was Nigeria first. So any country that is serious will want to place its own country and people first, because the primary responsibility of government is primarily what? The welfare and security of its citizens. So making America great again is a very good slogan. Now, but I said a little earlier that it would be an America as defined by Donald Trump. Not an America that is diverse. In fact, we've not talked about what were the factors that led to his victory.
Oh, I'll get to that.
Now, all of these put together, if you see that the promise he's making, the direction he's taking America is to a group of Americans, not even the entire people of the country. So that's the way I see it.
Mm. So we have some polls that were done by some foreign media outlets out there, and we can see right now, if you look at by gender, it was more males that voted for Trump, you know, and by race, of course, more white people, others, I don't know what others they mean, but other by 54%. And we come to age, from 45 to 64, voted more for him, and then it was like right there in the middle for people who are 65 and over, which I'm a bit surprised though. I expected them to like be the ones in the larger number to vote for him, but then they were divided in the middle. Now 18 to 29, I will understand why there'll be more of a Kamala Harris than a Trump, and then 30 to 44 because it has that kind of division down there. Now what struck me the most is the education part of it. And we look at the fact that the more people that voted for Trump are people that seemingly do not have college degrees. Now, I know that abroad, that doesn't necessarily, rather in America, and that doesn't necessarily mean so much, if we're being honest. So from that statistics, what can we say?
I think in all the categories that you have highlighted in your polls, Trump overperformed. He improved on his numbers both in 2016 and especially 2020, to the surprise of many. Because if polls were anything to rely on, and increasingly today, I for one, I think since 2016, I've really come to question polls in the US, because there are many, many things they don't pick, yet they come out there and paint a picture. Now, whether you are talking of the number of women that voted for Trump, the number is higher than most polls showed. College-educated persons, higher than it showed. Young people, higher than the polls showed. Saying in effect, and for me, I was looking out for the turnout in the election. And when there was a very high turnout, my thinking was the two sides, and because the polls all the way until November the 5th, when the elections took place, were pointing to a very close race, only for the result to show, in the words of Trump soon after the elections opened, he said he was very confident and that the result will not even be close. And indeed, the results today are not close. So we need to understand more about the character of the American voters. And in understanding that character, then you'll be able to predict and anticipate. But for now, we're not there.
Okay, so we're going to go on a short break. When we come back, we'll continue our conversations on the U.S. elections and its impact on the African continent. Just stay with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back. Thank you for staying with us. It's the Africa Update on Trust TV. Now, we've been talking about the U.S. elections and its impact on the African continent, and I've been here with Ambassador Bulus Lolo. Now, one of the major things about the U.S. elections, and what for some of us up until this election actually finally understood, for me, I don't know about other people, is the way the elections go about, which is the popular votes, which of course that's we're ahead before the day of election. Then the electoral college votes. Now, in 2016, Trump became the president because of the electoral college votes.
Right.
But here, he became the president on both sides, really.
By pure coincidence. But then, you see, that's an ongoing debate in the United States. They have long settled that you do not win the presidency based on popular vote, meaning, and as in the case of 2016, which you mentioned, Hillary Clinton got more votes than Trump did. But then, you do have a set of state electors that make up the electoral college. So a state like Pennsylvania, the electors will allocate 19 votes, which is to say there are 19 in number that will vote on behalf of the state. But their vote will be based on who gets the highest vote in their state. Then you take all. You go to two states like Maine and Nebraska. Nebraska has, I think, 3 electoral votes. Then Maine has 4. In Nebraska, you take by districts. So if in an election you win, say there is a district there in the Omaha region, which is the capital, Democrats tend to carry that district. So they split it in order not to say winner takes all. But every other state then, except Maine and Nebraska that I've mentioned, you split, you take everything. So the largest are New York and California. So there you have, I think, between 49 and 44 votes between the two. You take all those 49 until you get to a threshold of 270 out of a total electoral vote of 538. So unlike other countries like ours, even if you win by 50 votes, and that is the majority, you are the winner. In America, it is not so. So we have something to learn too.
That's where we're going to.
Wherein you can start your election early. Americans, even in Nigeria, voted in the election. You can vote through mail. Absentee votes, they call them. Their military personnel are allowed to vote. Why is it so? It is so because they have reached that level of being able to manage their electoral processes. You don't hear about ballot box snatching. You don't hear about fake papers and the rest of it. All these things are part and parcel of the learning process in a democracy. They've reached the threshold where they can count their, imagine, within hours of the final vote, results came in. There was nothing like you are loading and there's a technical hitch.
Network went and all those wonderful language we have. But just before we go, of course, we can see that he's likely to have a wonderful administration with the Senate, and votes are still coming in for reps, but hopefully the numbers for the Congress, rather, the numbers for the Republicans are going up. So that might make him have a full house to make his orders and policies pass. But just before we go, in 1 minute, the 5 major global powers have had their elections this year. And some people returned and some people left.
Right.
Xi Jinping, Vladimir Putin returned, still holding on to power. But we saw that there was a shake in France and there was a shake in UK. And yes, there's a shake in America. What do these mean? And especially as the relations to our continent?
Again, it is what Africa decides to do with itself. But you'll allow me to use this minute to offer an advice to our government, because we have a crisis in our hands. And what is that? When the deportation order comes into effect in America, Nigeria will be affected adversely. And my advice to government is, please and please and please, for those listening, put a contingency plan in place for the evacuation of Nigerians to be deported, for their return to Nigeria in dignity, and equally plan how to get them to their final destinations. And in this, it has to be a clean arrangement. We have 2 good months to start the planning, to be led, in my view, by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. There are agencies with interest, but it is not those agencies that have the mandate to manage Nigeria's foreign policy. And I'm saying this because it will be part of the impact. Okay? There will be a tectonic shift in global power and global affairs. America will retreat to itself. And America then will, in fact, under Trump, as we saw, his engagement with whether NATO, the United Nations, there's no organization out there that will earn the respect of of Trump, to the point where he will want to waste his time. And that is what making America great means to him.
Okay.
Lastly, then, for us as a people, what are we learning about the American experiment?
Okay.
You need more inclusivity and a government that is sensitive and responsive to the needs of the people.
Okay. Okay. Thank you so much, Ambassador Bulus, for joining us today on Africa Update and sharing your insights on the U.S. elections and, of course, its impact on the African continent. I hope the right people are listening. Get ready. We know Trump's stand on illegal migration so that our people are not stranded, if they have to return home, that is. And that's much we have for you on Africa Update this week. For more of our programs, news and documentaries, to follow us on our social media platforms and on our YouTube live stream. I am Chiamaka, Nwanfor. Same time, same place next week. Bye for now.